Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Zulovich, part of the team at Cherokee Media Group, and we welcome you to the webinar, the EV Inventory Conundrum, Trends Impacting the Market and Your Ability to Turn. And with our special expert guest speaker, Carla Wade, who is Senior Vice President of Business Development and Strategy at Lotlinx. So let's get right to our session. The EV Inventory Conundrum, Trends Impacting the Market and Your Ability to Turn with Carla Wade. Carla, welcome in. Thank you so much.
Hi, Nick. Thank you so much. Great to be here. All right, so we'll jump right in. So folks, thank you so much for joining, and I'm really excited to chat with you today a little bit about the EV inventory conundrum and what we can do to prepare some of the trends that we're seeing and some strategies that can potentially help move us throughout this phase. So here we are. We've arrived at what is seemingly the pinnacle for technological advancement, the highest proliferation of EV and hybrid brands that the industry has ever seen, and what feels like a complete slowdown in demand. So the EV conundrum, in order to combat this, our dealers and manufacturers alike are going to need help to get through the rising inventory levels as they stand today. Vehicle supply is back on the rise, as we all know, especially with our EV brands. Consumers are still uncertain about the decision to buy an EV versus an ICE vehicle. And charging stations and that infrastructure still seems sparse across many parts of the country. And let's not forget the high cost of ownership, our interest rates, and programs that are lacking right now. So today we're going to look at some of the three trends that we're seeing throughout this issue. So what we'll be covering today, on our next slide, what we'll be covering today are, as mentioned, the rising inventory, the uncertainty that automakers are having right now and their long-term plans, and again, that consumer demand and what we can do to get through what is a softer than expected market. So moving on, it's pretty synonymous that industry-wide, there's an overall rise or resurgence of supply, right? With days on lot now creeping up to about a 53-day supply on most ICE vehicles. The same can be said for our EVs. Now, as manufacturers ramped up the assembly of EV vehicles on what was predicted to maybe be an ease of production and a higher consumer adoption than predicted, instead, what we're seeing is a bloating in dealers' inventories of EVs with a 103-day supply, almost double our ICE vehicles to date, and many scratching their heads on how to move these cars, how to find these buyers, if they exist. Even that is a looming question right now, bringing down dealers' certainty and comfortability with being able to move some of their EV and hybrid product. So adding to this too, of course, is the current state of the economy. It plays a big role here with the cost of ownerships, interest rates, and the lack of programs forcing our government, manufacturers alike, to do something, to make some changes in order to help us through this time. Of course, if interest rates are rising also on the consumer side, you best believe that that's happening on our floor plans and holding costs as well. We're seeing interest rates as high as 7.5 in holding costs for dealers right now, which is extremely painful, and now putting additional pressure on trying to move these vehicles and move this metal as quickly as possible, being able to turn that metal faster. So while manufacturers overall may be experiencing an increase in EV sales. Some are anyway, about 1%. The revenue, however, is not keeping pace. And therefore, the overall demand for electric vehicles is not meeting with that supply, adding additional pressure to both OEMs and dealers alike and cutting into profits. So what do we do about this, right? On our next slide, we'll talk a little bit about some of the uncertainty that is happening, that's looming around at the moment. So if I recall, around this time last year, I presented at an auto conference, and the presentation was about getting your dealerships ready for EV vehicles and the influx of customers and the questions they're going to ask, readying your staff, being able to get your showrooms outfitted with charging stations and the resources needed to sell these brands. And at that time, it was a hot topic, but the reason was mainly around combating the misnomers in the industry with our consumers, right? Kind of combating their fears against what at that time was the lack of infrastructure, or the conveniences, if you will, the charging stations and so on, and range anxiety. So, oh boy, has that changed since that, since that past year, where now the grave outlook of the number of vehicles we have is we've kind of flipped that over to, where are the buyers, and how can we appeal to this consumer if they're out there. Now, the COVID years forced a lot of changes, not just to the auto industry, but also to the consumer and their attitude toward vehicle ownership and buying vehicles. So what happened when, we had an influx of inventory, but we had a downturn, if you will, in supply. So where some may want a specific color or convenience, they're a little harder to get. And so consumers found themselves really digging in and going deeper on their search, or taking longer to try to find the vehicles that they wanted outside of having to compromise. This changed the attitude, right? So where some were looking at other brands now because potentially they weren't finding exactly what they wanted to purchase, they looked at used vehicles in a different way, where if you were an avid new car buyer now, that was an appealing proposition to you because you could find what you wanted. So brand loyalty dipped. The number of people moving towards new cars also became a new, used cars, I beg your pardon, became a new trend. And then also vehicle ownership. People were hanging onto their vehicles longer, and so on, which really, kind of started to create this downturn. But overall, affordability is at the top of this decision-making process. Now, it's no secret that an EV vehicle, most of them have a luxury price tag. And with the prices of vehicles creeping up during the COVID years, forcing customers now to spend almost $112 more for a payment on a vehicle overall, it really put a lot of strain on the choice to choose an EV vehicle. So how can dealerships adapt to this challenging market? How can dealers try to find these consumers and where they're sitting? So it seems as though we have a country divided at the moment, where in recent studies, about 51% of consumers say that they would most likely consider purchasing an EV vehicle, and not only for the green footprint, not just for those reasons, but also because they do believe that this is the future and this is a better way forward. But some of the things that are standing in their way is the cost of ownership, right? The lack of resources, and the ability to be able to afford these vehicles at the current rate that we're going right now. So the consumers are out there, and there is a way to sway this audience. So we started off this, webinar with a lot of heavy stuff, right? And it sounds like it's all doom and gloom. However, there is definitely better things on the horizon. And so I wanted to make sure that we pointed out, some of the things that we can look forward to that can help both dealers and consumers afford these vehicles in short order. So there have been a lot of government programs out there that have aided with tax credits and so on for consumers to purchase vehicles. But it always seemed like a very lengthy and arduous process. You're doing it after the fact. The credits would run out. There was only a number of vehicles that were eligible for those credits. And so now what was announced, I believe, just on September 8th, is a new program where the tax credits can then be transferred to the dealership at the time of purchase. And this will allow the consumer to use that tax credit. Sometimes I think it maxes out at about $7,500 per purchase, and use that as a down payment for this vehicle, bringing in some affordability, allowing the dealer now to have an active participatory role in this sale and allow them to move more vehicles in a short order. That coupled with many enhanced programs, both on the federal side as well as state by state on the green program. And so educating yourselves on what programs are available in your state, as well as handing that down to your consumer, can definitely help to try to move some of these vehicles off the lot. Coupled with that also is using your marketing team and using your software resources to help you identify where those buyers are, right? Because 51% is no small portion. So where are they? How can we attract them? If you have a high supply of EV cars on your lot, you want to make sure that they are up front and center, being seen by the right audience. So leaning in on your marketing team, promoting your dealership, promoting your vehicles, and making them visible to these audiences are definitely going to help you with getting those moved. And as we spoke earlier in the presentation about the sentiment about buying vehicles being different, consumers, we've noticed now, are taking more time to choose. They will do more research. They'll research several dealerships, and they're even open to driving further out to get the vehicle that they want. So it is imperative that your inventory is being shown and you're showcasing all that your dealership has to offer. Some interesting things too coming down the pipe. It's not just on the financial side, but on the technology side. As we talked about the infrastructure with charging stations and things of that nature, there's also a project that is happening right now where the technology in our EV vehicles are actually going to give back to the grid. So there's a project that's being embarked upon that will allow EV vehicles to share some of their stored battery resource to power back the grid, to even help areas where they're susceptible to brownouts and blackouts, taking away even more of that fear for some of those states, especially in California, where the sentiment around purchasing EV vehicles, we know, is much higher. So these are some of the things that could definitely help, the dealerships as well as the consumer find more of an appetite and narrow the gap for ownership for EVs. And then moving on. So what can a dealer do? So we talked a little bit about that, running specific campaigns around those vehicles if you have them, even having an in-house event, right? Maybe inviting your town or your area in to test drive these vehicles, have an education session, maybe have a little bit of pomp and circumstance around it where you get to meet and greet folks in your neighborhood and there is a little bit of music and food, but really embracing the EV models themselves and showcasing that to your area at large. Leaning in on your marketing team and really making sure that those vehicles have an upfront and center view, leveraging technologies and AI tools that are out there right now. Lotlinx also has a program that can assist with, targeting specific audiences or showcasing specific brands or models or segments of your inventory. And then just leaning in on your marketing team to help you make sure that you are getting that message out, putting your, dealership up on Facebook, making sure your website is fully stocked with rich, beautiful pictures, and of course, talking about any incentives or programs that you may have available on those vehicles as well. So Nick, that's all I have for you today. I don't know if there's any questions out there that maybe we can help to address.
Absolutely. Great information, Carla, again, for our special webinar featuring Lotlinx, the EV inventory conundrum, trends impacting the market and your ability to turn. And Carla, you shared some great insights already, but just what other tips might you or strategy recommendations might you have to share as far as how to manage that EV inventory in particular, and especially in light of where we are in the economy and just the industry circumstances, as you outlined? There's some great incentives out there to get some customer interest in EVs, but at the same time, there are some headwinds as well. What other tips for dealerships might you have?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would think that, if you go back to that old school of thought of selling, right? You have a customer in your showroom and they're in front of you. And I know back when I was selling cars, it was, show them a new and show them a pre, like you give them three choices, right? You don't just put one car in front of them, but you give them three choices. Make one of those EVs one of your choices. Don't judge the book by its cover, right? You just never know when someone may have had that sentiment, or maybe are ready to cross the line into an EV car, but they have questions. Help to be the educator of that and put them forefront, in your conversation, your daily conversations or your sales interactions, as well as, how you're marketing and showcasing them on your website, how you're talking about them on your social media, on Facebook, that kind of stuff. So just make sure that it's you're educated, what specific programs are available in your state, sometimes they go down to the town or county level as well. Do that research, have that information on hand. These could be some of the small things that a consumer needed to just get the confidence to make that step.
Closing moments here on our webinar, the EV inventory conundrum, trends impacting the market and your ability to turn, featuring our special guest experts, Carla Wade, who is Senior Vice President of Business Development and Strategy at Lotlinx. And Carla, just to round us out, as you touched on again, just moments ago, knowing where those potential buyers are, whether they're down the streets or maybe a couple states over, you never know nowadays. Just perhaps some insights into what Lotlinx has uncovered. Just where is the EV audience as we speak, do you think? How do we know where these buyers might be?
Absolutely. So thanks for asking, Nick. I think that it's no secret that shoppers are spending more time online when it comes down to choosing the vehicle. And we all have a time frame, right? Even if I put myself back in the marketplace when I was looking for a vehicle, I extended my lease 2 times over before I made a decision, right? I really wanted to find the right car for me. And EV was in my decision-making process. But when I'm very, very high funnel and I'm still poking around and looking for a vehicle, I'm not quite ready to pull the trigger, right? What Lotlinx helps to do is find those buyers that we have predicted are in the buying stage. They're very low funnel. They are ready to pull the trigger. Research is done. We've looked at what we want. We've narrowed it all the way down. And our AI and machine learning allows us to do this by watching that customer's buying journey, understanding what their choices are and what they've whittled down to, and being able to pinpoint exactly when they are ready and where they are in the marketplace. Sometimes that could be a step outside of your natural AOI and can be very difficult to discern or find, just by using your own natural resources at the dealership. And so what Lotlinx is able to do is gather that intelligence, allow you to make sure that your vehicles are being seen by that ready-to-buy audience and turning those vehicles at a much faster and higher rate. So if anyone in the audience today is interested in learning more about how we can do that and how we can help, I'm sure we'd be standing by the phones ready and willing to give anyone a demonstration and show them how. But it's really about leaning on AI and leaning on some of that machine intelligence. It just does more than what a human being could possibly handle on a day-to-day at a very busy dealership.
Excellent. And Carla, to close us out, how can dealerships of all stripes get in touch with Lotlinx?
Well, I definitely invite them to visit our website. It's at lotlinx.com. There's more information there. There's testimonials, videos, case studies. You can see the sentiments from some of our current customers and loyal partners today, but also fill in a demo request. And within moments, you'll have someone ready to be at the aid and give you a full rundown.
That's Carla Wade, Senior Vice President of Business Development and Strategy at Lotlinx. Carla, thank you so much for the time and insights about an important topic, electric vehicles. Thank you so much.
Pleasure being here, Nick. Thank you for having me.
And on behalf of all of us at Cherokee Media Group, my name is Nick Zulovich. We thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you again next time.